What are some street smarts everyone should know? Street smarts to give your kids. If you get lost, find the closest adult with kids. I saw this in action once at Disneyland, when a 4-year-old kid approached me and my kiddos while we were eating. She joined us very calmly, introduced herself, and said her parents gave her the above advice. I heard her parents shouting her name not long after, and the relief on their faces was a sight. One time I was meeting up with a guy to sell my car. We met up at a mall, so I felt pretty comfortable about the whole thing. He seemed a little off when we met though. I eventually let him take a test drive around the lot, and he started to mention taking it for a test drive on the highway. I immediately said nah, because he still seemed pretty off, but he kept insisting on taking it there. I had to legit throw the car into park, and grab the keys out to keep him from going. The whole time he was saying it's okay, it'll be okay, and that just pissed me off even more. I drove the car back, and he just dipped right. When we got back without saying a word, that was when I knew I did the right thing. My heart was racing so fast the whole time, it still messes me up just thinking about it. Was on a rock climbing trip to Morocco. We arrived late, and our planned hotel was all booked up. I didn't plan the trip, so I was just following the others walking around Marrakech at 2 a.m. with huge backpacks and duffel bags looking as out of place as possible. One guy from our group asks a random street guy where hotel is. He just has us follow him in a circle around the big market, and eventually leads us to an alley that wasn't far from where we initially started. The weird path combined with the fact that as we walked around the market, I noticed more and more guys following our group on the outskirts of the market, made me stop everyone and absolutely refuse to go down the alley. I grew up in rough neighborhoods, and have always kept my head on a swivel. No one else was aware of what, maybe, was going on. I've always been a hyper-aware person, was diagnosed with that as a kid, but I believe it has kept me safe many times considering my dangerous hobbies and work. One day I was meeting someone from OfferUp to buy something. The address he gave me was on a sketchy part of town, but not the worst, so I agreed to meet him. When I was close, I texted him, and he changed the location to meet. Instead, he said to turn into a different street, and just wait for him at the corner. I waited for about 10 minutes and I don't see anyone around, but the whole time I'm thinking I'm being set up. My GF felt uneasy as well, so we bailed. I told the guy off for changing the meetup spot and making me wait on top of it, then blocked him. Who knows what would have happened, but I feel like I dodged a bullet. If you're going to be away on holiday, or somewhere you're unfamiliar with for any length of time, it's a good idea to try to always make sure that someone knows roughly where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing on a given day. Even if you're like me, and you don't like to plan out a full itinerary, a rough indication of what your plans might be can help work out your movements, if ever there is an issue. Never flash your whole wad of cash in a public place while paying for something. Keep a few bucks loose in one pocket for spending. Keep the majority of your cash in a separate pocket. Don't open a wallet full of all your money where other people can't see you. If you're walking and someone approaches, don't break stride. You can carry on a conversation while walking, but people who are looking to proselytize, sell you something, or mug you will want you to slow or stop to address them. If they want to chat, make them keep up with you. You can even tell them that you're in a rush, but would love to talk and walk. They'll likely find someone more stationary, because if you can make a person slow, you can make them stop. If you can make them stop, you've already adjusted their priorities and placed yourself at the top. It's a subtle power game. Keep going where you're going, and you retain your power. Stop and cat, and you've given it up and opened yourself to possible problems. One time in Disney World, an old couple asked my wife and I if they could speak to our 2 young daughters, ages 10 and 8. Since we were right there, we said sure, but stood right there while they spoke. Can you tell me how to find the photos on our cell phone? My daughters helped them out, and as they walked away, they said we usually ask our granddaughters to help us with this stuff. Always know where the exits are in any place that you enter, so that you don't get lost in an emergency. Also, never place yourself in a hole in public, where there is only one entrance and exit, and no other people around. These are often crime hotspots. Be aware of surroundings. Look like you belong either through body language, attire, or occupation, without being oblivious to things around you. The moment you look lost, out of place, or unsure is the moment you can look like a good target. If someone is looking at you with an expression questioning why you are there, be prepared to answer it. Here are a few street smarts that makes it harder for pickpockets to steal your stuff. Do not keep your wallet in the back pocket of your jeans. This is a super easy place for pickpocket to take it from. When in crowded touristy areas, it sometimes is better to wear your backpacks or purses to the front of your body. If you sit down in a restaurant, keep your backpack in front of your feet. Be especially aware of your belongings when there is a bit of pushing, like when entering a subway or metro wagon. Be alert in situations where a potential group of thieves try to distract you, for example, by asking you for directions on a map. While you are distracted, by showing the person the directions, another thief will open your bags and take your stuff without noticing. Another thing to look out are people in European cities asking for cash donations for the blind, deaf or handicapped. The huge majority of them are not for real charities, but just A, get some money from me, and B, more importantly for an accomplice, to see where you store your wallet. Having good manners and speaking with respect will keep you from getting in trouble you didn't know was there. I do appreciate all the awards from everyone, raising my karma by 50%, truly. From the response, it seems like those that have been in sketchy areas truly understand the importance of manners. It is nice to know there are some good people out there. My hat off to all of you. I wish you all the best. For all of those that do not understand, it is about respect. Not only of the person you are speaking to but of yourself. I hope you understand one day. I wish this was higher up. When people talk about street smarts, they too often go to a place of defensiveness and mistrust. You can go a long way by being friendly and respectful. Obviously, you don't act a fool and blunder into a dangerous situation with a smile, but many street encounters start from a neutral interaction, just passing by people. You can turn a neutral interaction into a friendly one, or a hostile one depending on how approach it. I do this especially in my own neighborhood, which is not necessarily a crime-free zone. If somebody is sitting on their steps when I walk by, and we make eye contact, I usually give a quick smile, and say hi as I'm walking past. Almost always, they will say hi in return. They don't know me, and I don't know them, but now we said hi to each other, so the relationship has changed in a slightly positive way. We may see each other again, since we live within a few miles of each other, and now our relationship has just a few points in the friend category. It can make a difference. My countryside ass was saved too many times, just because of that one thing. I, Tiny 24, F at the time, lived for 2 years in a drug-dealing neighborhood. Not violent, but not really a place you'd have kids in. Having been raised in a nice, cozy village, it seemed normal to me to say hi and smile to the guys that were constantly sitting around my building. I knew they might be dealers, but to me, they were also my neighbors and fellow humans that never bothered me personally, right? We never spoke more than that, but we knew each other's faces. Then one evening I got followed by a guy from the metro station. I didn't say anything, didn't ask anything, but guess who stood up from one of their spots and escorted that stalker back to the station while I got home. They did it more than once, just judging by how I'd look behind me, or they'd ask me, hey, you know that guy? Dealers don't want the locals to call the police in the neighborhood for any reason. Don't bother them, know them, and they'll make sure you don't have a reason to call the police in on anyone, ever. At least that's how it worked in those places I lived in. I never felt unsafe in that place, even at night. I didn't like living there, it was still a shitty, depressing place. But I never felt unsafe once I kind of knew them. Always ask for only one scoop of ice cream first, because they make single scoops bigger, then act like you changed your mind, and ask for a second scoop. They will be pressured to match the size of the first scoop, providing you with a massive amount of ice cream. I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood in Chicago, and probably the best thing you should do when walking by yourself at night is pay attention to every car. Usually, they'll drive past you and scope you out. If you look like a target, you'll see that car again, or they'll meet you farther down your path while you're walking past an alley. Always be ready for something when walking past an alley and stay close to the houses. That way, if anything's suspicious, you can run into a backyard. Don't tell even close friends the amount of money you have on you. I was set up by an 18-year-old female coworker this week. She seemed like a sweetheart and was giving me rides to work for a few days. I asked on the Monday if we could go to bank as I needed to cash a check for roughly $4,500. Minutes after dropping me near house, I was robbed at gunpoint of everything by two guys. They knew how much they were looking for. The robber said he watched me leave bank, but the police saw on camera near home that they had been waiting for me for an hour. One of the robbers was her ex-current boyfriend, it turns out. Eye contact. A lone assailant will often use the element of surprise to their advantage. If you're walking alone and someone is following you, make eye contact to let them know that you are aware of them. This will often dissuade them from attacking. This tactic has worked for me in the past. I was walking down the street at 3 a.m. in a bad neighborhood, don't ask why. Heard someone behind me, so I turned around and confronted him. I didn't act scared or hostile, just something like, "Hey man, what's going on?" The guy was thrown off guard, said he was mistaken and walked away. Pretty sure I was about to get mugged, could tell he had a gun in the waistband of his pants. From experience, if you're alone on the street and you think you're being followed, immediately call someone, forget about conversation starters, and give away your location. You should add, "I think I'm being followed." Speak loudly enough, so the person you think is following you hears you doing it. If you're right, and they were following you, that will be a big turnoff. If you're wrong, you have nothing to lose. It might sound harsh, but if anyone approaches you and asks to use your phone for anything, especially emergency related, don't fall for it. They will usually tell you what the emergency is, so walk away, tell them you don't have a phone, whatever, and for your inner peace call the emergency, and give away that person's location. Tell them exactly what the person told you. Either they really needed help, and you're sending it their way, or they tried to trick you into something horrible, and will most likely try it again with the next passerby. Whenever you are, plan ahead and blend in with the crowd. I mean, don't dress all fancy in the hood kind of thing. Please, for the love of God, stop using your earphones while on the street. At least try to only have one earbud in, if you can't help it. It's not healthy, ear fatigue, potential risks to your hearing, but at least it won't completely cover the background noises. If you are walking alone at night and you feel like you're being watched, followed, start talking to yourself loudly about crazy shit. Make it a conversation even. Did you see her dress? That dress was so crazy long. Like, how could she walk? Let alone walk in that grocery store. And those cheap plastic shoes. I own those cheap plastic shoes. Are you saying I'm cheap? If the cheap plastic shoe fits, honey, I'll admit to doing this. I used to work graveyard shifts, and you got to be aware. Most people, no matter how bad, try to avoid crazy. Crazy will hurt you back. Never do drugs in situations you don't know about. Could be someone spikes it, takes advantage by robbing, rape, kidnapping, whatever it is. Always be paying attention. Everyone's talking about the drugging, which is good awareness, and it's sad to hear so many stories. I just wanted to emphasize the always be paying attention part too. Don't let anything take your attention away when you're in a new potentially dangerous situation. I should have elaborated more on that too. If you are forced to walk through a bad, dangerous neighborhood, keep your chin up and maintain a confident and comfortable look on your face. Nothing screams "abuse me" more than an out-of-place person waking around with their chin down, looking at the sidewalk. I learned this after visiting a new girlfriend many years ago in a bad section of Philly. I was walking down the street towards her house, and a local female walking by me said, "Keep that chin up around here, white boy." The more I considered that advice, the more logical it sounded. One, situational awareness would probably be the biggest thing I'd stress to people. These days everyone's so buried in their phones, they don't pay attention. 2, walk with a purpose, act like you belong, and you're 100% in charge of your shit. This combined with 1, will probably keep you out of trouble 99% of the time. 3, if you can, control the situation. Your gut instincts are often right, and when they're telling you to leave, you should. Sometimes people prevent that from happening, but as a general rule I try to control the situation by leaving. I'll try again and again. Before I traveled to Thailand, I read US government official travel advisories advice online, and was able to avoid scams they specifically warned about, mostly random guys and tuk-tuk drivers trying to convince us that tourist attractions were closed, and aiming to get us to go with them to who knows where. Also, the tea house scam has become common in two nightlife areas of Tokyo, Roppongi and Kabukicho, except not at tea houses, but small bars. The Tao promises you a great bar club with pretty girls. You get there to find a small bar, a menu with no prices and a lady to join you for a drink. If you refuse to pay the $300 plus bill, the enforcer comes out from the back and will escort you to an ATM if needed. Sometimes, the target is drugged as well. Stay alert and just don't go to any place the tout recommends. Don't expect other people to save you. Make sure you take precautions, and don't just wait around if you need something done. Have things in your car that will help you in a dire situation. Know how to change your own tire. Sure, it's nice when someone will do it for you, but if we have learned anything in 2020 is that you might just be alone when shit hits the fan, and you have to start trying things to get out of a tough situation.